Hello YouTube, Dave here again. So today I wanted to do a video that's sort of a response to a friend of mine through Facebook. He made a video response a while back. I did a video which was actually in itself a video response that I had done. But the subject was on just like let people play the versions of games that they like, and don't always try to get someone to play the game that you like because you think it's better. And anyway. So in the video he asked me to do a response on the subject of alignment in role-playing games. And I've been thinking about this for quite some time, and it's been difficult to really kind of articulate how I feel about it, because alignment in, say, Dungeons & Dragons, which is the game that I know the most, doesn't really exist anymore. And I mean, it's in the game, it's part of the game, and you choose an alignment as you're creating your character. And that alignment choice can sort of influence your background choices. But really, when you look at it, at its core, what the alignment system used to do doesn't do that anymore. And what I mean by that is that it used to sort of classes in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, 1st and 2nd edition, and even into the 3rd and 3.5 D&D, and I think even to a lesser extent with 4th edition, certain classes were restricted to certain alignments. So, for example, the obvious one is, and up until 3.5, and even again, I think into at least D&D Essentials, I know had a sort of an alignment system for this class. But paladins had to be lawful good, and that was the only alignment that paladins could have from the the mid 70s into like 2000 and 2008. So for a very, very long time, if you wanted to be a paladin, you had to be lawful good. In 3rd edition, I know, well, actually, in 2nd edition AD&D, and I think in 1st edition AD&D, Rangers had to have a good alignment. And I guess I should say, for those who aren't aware, alignments are sort of an abstract sort of thing, but they're based on what part of these spectrums that you're on. The two spectrums are law and chaos, and then the other one is, so that was the first one, the second one is good and evil. So there's, you can be, and then you combine them, and then there's neutrality sort of in the middle. So you can be lawful good, you can be lawful neutral, you can be lawful evil. You can be neutral good, you can be true neutral, you can be neutral evil. And then you can be chaotic good, chaotic neutral, and chaotic evil. So, again, certain classes were restricted, so I think a ranger had to be a good alignment. Up until 3rd edition. I think in 3rd edition they had to be chaotic, but they didn't have to be chaotic good, which I think was probably what they had to be in AD&D. And correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since I looked at the ranger classes for those versions of the game. The monk in 3rd edition D&D had to be lawful. The barbarian had to be chaotic. So your alignments were sort of, if you wanted to be a particular class, a lot of them dictated to a certain extent what your alignments had to be. And I think some people play alignments kind of the wrong way a lot, and like, for example, lawful good doesn't mean you have to be overbearing and sanctimonious. It just means that you adhere specifically to, a strict code of ethics. And you're unwilling to budge from those code of ethics, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be preachy or annoying about it. And I see a lot of paladins being played where they play them lawful good, and then they just make them as altruistic and annoying as possible, and I don't think you actually have to do that. But anyway, with 4th edition D&D, they actually stripped the alignment system down sort of to its bare bones. They actually got rid of the neutrality, like the neutral aspects of alignment, and they melded them with other ones that they just kind of were very similar to. So in 4th edition, your alignments were unaligned, meaning that you didn't subscribe to one type of alignment over another. So you were not necessarily leaning one way or the other when it came to law or chaos, or good or evil. So they had that, and then they had lawful good, which was still, sort of similar to how it had always been. And then they just had the alignment good. So the good alignment was a combination of neutral good and chaotic good, because really, chaotic good characters and neutral good characters are very, very similar in terms of, believing in doing things for the greater good, and whatever it takes to accomplish those. So they combine those together. They also had chaotic evil, which is sort of like the extreme version of evil, but then they had just the evil alignment, which combined lawful evil with neutral evil, because again, they'll sort of, neutral evil would function more similarly to lawful evil than necessarily chaotic evil. So they had done that. And it's funny because as much as people were, even back in 3rd edition, I know there's a lot of people that were upset with the alignment system. And as much as people hated it, when it was changed to what I consider to be a more streamlined version, then like people pounced on that and wanted the old alignment system back, even though they didn't like the old alignment system. It was just, again, it was just that era, I think, where nothing Wizards of the Coast did would make anybody happy. Now in 5th edition, in D&D Essentials, the Paladin in that, in the Heroes of the Forgotten Kingdoms, I think it's called, the Paladin, there's 2 different types of Paladins in there. And one of them, I think, had to be lawful good, and then I think the other could be any non... I think the other one could have any alignment, except for chaotic evil, I think, was the restriction there. So there was still sort of a restriction on alignment. With 5th edition, no class in the game at all has an alignment restriction. None of them. So alignment no longer determines what classes you can or cannot be. The only thing that alignment really sort of does is if you're doing your background stuff, some people like to have their personality traits, bonds, flaws, and ideals be based off their alignment. So like if you look, a lot of them will have like, for your ideals, you'll have like whatever it is, and then like in brackets it'll have good or neutral or evil or whatever, right? So some people will base their background information on the alignment that they choose for their character, or they'll choose their alignment based on the options that they chose for their background, which is fine, but alignment really doesn't do anything anymore. And I never had a problem with alignment. You know, a lot of people have asked, you know, what do you think of it? And it's like, for me, it was always fine. It was just a part of the game, and it's something that, you know, really, there wasn't much of a reason to worry about it. The only thing is that if you have a player that's playing a lawful good character, and they start doing, like, things that you would consider to be very much evil, then, you know, you shift their alignment. And there used to be really big penalties for shifting your alignment back in the day. I think you lost all of your accumulated experience. I think that's how it worked. If you were like level 6 and you were, you know, almost on level 7, but you changed your alignment, I think you lost all that extra experience points and went back to your starting number for the level. I think that's how it worked anyway. And then you had to rebuild it back up. For your Paladin class, you lost all of your abilities, and that was it. You were done. I think they had the Atonement spell that could potentially get them back, but I mean, changing your alignment used to be very serious business. Nowadays, it doesn't really matter that much, and I don't focus on it as a dungeon master. I don't worry about how my players play their alignment. As long as, you know, people that say that they're good, you know, don't go around killing villagers, or torturing prisoners, or executing people that are helpless, then that's fine. You know, I don't really care if they say that they're lawful good, neutral good, or chaotic good. As long as they're not being actively evil, then I don't really worry about it. I don't mind that alignment's in the game. You know, I really don't. I don't think it's as big of an issue as people want to make out of it, especially now where it doesn't do anything. Now it's just a harmless part of the game. You know, it's just a sort of a strict, not even a strict, it's a loose idea of how you should be role-playing your character. And for me, that's fine. You know, I think that's, if you're going to have alignment in your game, and if people are going to be upset over having an alignment system, having it not actually impact, you know, your class choices or stuff like that, is probably the best way to do it. And I wouldn't be surprised if the next edition of Dungeons & Dragons that comes out, hopefully, you know, a long time down the road, but when that comes out, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of have, if they get rid of it altogether. I mean, I don't know. It's not really doing anything now for the game, so if they, you know, took it out, I don't see it making a difference, really. You would just have, like, good and evil and neutral, and that's all you really have to worry about. And that's all I ever really worried about anyway. So those are sort of just, like, my thoughts, really. I don't mind it. I don't think it's a big deal. I do kind of wish that people would stop playing Lawful Good as preachy, sanctimonious, and unbearable, because I don't think that's the way that it has to be played. And I wish people would stop playing chaotic evil as, hey, I can just go and slaughter entire villages because I'm evil. And it's like, no, that's not necessarily how it works. You know, you don't be stupid about it. But I just a lot of times, any evil campaign that I've played in, you always have the chaotic evil players, and that's the first thing they do. It's like they go to town, they just decide to start slaughtering everybody, and it just sucked. So if you're gonna play alignments, play them smart, play them the proper way. Don't necessarily have to adhere to the stereotypes. Work within the system, sort of thing. But anyway, those are just sort of my basic thoughts on it. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of alignment. Do you like the system? Do you hate the system? Do you follow it at all? Do you use it for anything, or is it just sort of superfluous and just something that's, you know, that you fill in your character sheet? Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time.